Okay, and see what happens. And it looks like we have a live stream. So let's just give it a few seconds for one or two people to turn up and we'll see what happens. So I was going to make a video about this, but then it suddenly occurred to me that actually no one's going to watch it before the launch anyway. I got very little time to actually put all this together because the launch license came up fairly quick. And yeah, I mean, all credits to the team that they actually got the rocket ready to go. And it looks like this time they actually were waiting on the launch license, in that last time they said they were ready to launch. As soon as they got a launch license, they got the launch license, and it was another 6 months till they launched, and it still blew up on the pad. What to expect? And I think that there are two ways you can look at it. You can listen to what Musk has been saying, and if you listen to what Musk has been saying, the expectation is not a success. So in many ways, they got lucky with the last one in that, if you take a look at it when it launches, the first thing it does is it sort of careers sideways, which was basically because of the asymmetric thrust, because not enough engines lit up. And when that happened, it could have sort of veered off into the, it's sort of dumb luck they didn't veer into the tower and cause a lot more damage. This time, so if you want to go on what Musk has been saying, the last time I saw some of his comments on this were a few months ago, and he gave it like 50% chance or something. And if you scroll back to what he said in the sort of dissection of what went wrong with the last launch, he said that the last launch, the one that blew up, exceeded his expectations, and that had 4 engines out on the launch, which was all drunk and almost it could have gone sideways very quickly. There's if you take a look at what they've done since, they've repaired the pad, and you got to give credit to them, they did so at an impressive rate, and they've put basically a deluge system in there, which we'll maybe touch on later. But the key thing is engine reliability. I mean, all a rocket really is a giant fuel tank and some engines that burn the fuel fairly quickly to get you up to speed. Rocket engines need to be reliable, especially if you've spammed 30 of them on the bottom of your rocket, which is basically what they've done here. And they had 2 static fires to test the deluge system. The first one had 4 engines out on the test fire, which is only like 2 seconds or something. The second one, they got all of the engines to light up, which is the first time they've ever got all of the engines to light up. But I think it was 3 of them failed during a 6-second test. And just so you know, I think it's 3 engines fail. It's not making orbit. And these, in terms of the hurdles that you've got to get over in between the chasm between what Musk has been promising and what he can realistically deliver. In fact, let's shift over to what should have been delivered by now. Is it that one? Yes, here we go. Excellent. So up in this corner here, you will see a presentation from Musk in 2016 about making life interplanetary, where there are meant to be 2 cargo starships landing on Mars last year for confirming water resources and hazard identifying hazards, and to place power, mining, life support infrastructure for further flights. That was meant to be happening last year. And next year, 2024, they're going to send 2 ships for the first flight to take people to Mars, 2 cargo ships for bringing equipment and supplies, and setting up a propellant production plant and building a base to prepare for expansion. So that's basically where Musk was predicting we would be now. And instead, well, let's just say it's significantly behind schedule. In fact, at this point, I'm going to try and be really crazy and do some interactive stuff if this will work. Hello, everyone who is joining the stream, by the way. So up in the top right-hand corner there, that the thing is meant to be fueling now. They say they're going to start the stream in like half an hour or something. There's a very good chance that something just goes wrong and they scrub the whole thing. If you follow the flavor of what Musk has been saying, yeah, it's going to go badly. So I'll go over the breakdown of their last launch. Not by me, of course, by Musk, right? Just to see what they learned, or more to the point, what they didn't learn. Anyway, so we need to come over to our drawing board. Musk, by the way, has been having a very entertaining weekend. First of all, in shaking hands with Z, then pissing off loads of advertisers by anti-Semitic stuff on Twitter, which he's now, yeah, I kind of don't know whether you see this, going on and saying that many of the largest advertisers are the greatest oppressors of your rights and free speech. That was less than 24 hours after posting this. That's him shaking hands with Z there. And then going on to saying that on Monday, X Corp will be filing a thermonuclear lawsuit against Media Matters for those who have fraudulently attacked the website, which is like, looks like they mostly expressed their opinions to me, you know, sort of free speech thing. But anyway, whatever. We want to come to, not that, we want to get to, bingo, hopefully a drawing board. Do we have a drawing board? We do, excellent, okay. So let's see if we can do this. It was 2016. That was when Musk said, you know, Mars by 2024. So that was roughly 8 years in the future. And his predictions for Mars are still 8 years in the future. And you've got to work pretty hard to keep the years on this. So we'll go for 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022... 2023 is where we are now, and 2024. So that's, you know, roughly how long Musk thought it would take to get to Mars. And if, you know, if he's asked now, it's like, oh yeah, it'll be in the next 8 to 10 years, that sort of thing. So basically, there's been no progress towards getting towards Mars, which, yeah, I mean, this is entirely expected. But anyway, I think it was 2018, they were meant to be doing the Dear Moon mission. That's where, you know, they were going to sort of cap people off and you do the sort of free return thing around the moon. This is where it gets really quite exciting, by the way, because you really do get the chance to get lost in space if something goes wrong while you're doing this. The thing about Starship, well, yeah, when they were designing Apollo, there were all sorts of abort options in here, that there was basically no point when you couldn't make it back to Earth. But Starship, it's got lousy capabilities beyond low Earth orbit, and you know, you need to do all the refueling thing, and if you get your burns wrong, you can actually literally end up just sort of drifting off into space forever with no hope of rescue. Anyway, so that was the Dear Moon mission, which is still not even, you know, on the spectrum yet. And yeah, it was 2022. Musk said if they didn't get 2 Starship flights per month in 2023, the company risked bankruptcy. And actually, well, maybe we'll come to this now. After they blew up the first one, so they blew up the first one in like April, right? And at the end of April, they had a breakdown of what they actually learned from blowing up the first one. So let's come back to. Actually, let's see if I can get some comments up. Show me the comments. I stream so infrequently that there's an element of amateur hour about this that. How do I get the comments? Yeah, I know no one can. There's something that says chat. Live chat. Good. I've got the chat up. Excellent. Right. So, I was going to make the video about this, but it's like, whatever. I'll just do the live stream. We'll watch them fuel it. In all likelihood, failure of success is not what should be expected. Not my words. Right, so we need to go to Vegas. Oh no, that's me. You want me. You want Vegas there instead. Excellent. Right. So, this is now what Musk had to say. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this.
Elon, do you expect HLS to be Starship HLS to be the long pole for Artemis 3?
No, I definitely don't.
Right. So this is where it gets purely delusional, right? So in order for NASA to go to the moon, they're all in with SpaceX. Basically, I think one of the reasons they're getting their launch license when let's just say everyone else who built an unauthorized heavy launch system next to a nature reserve might not get quite such soft treatment. But basically, if Starship doesn't fly, America doesn't get back to the moon. It's not getting back to the moon anyway. But the thing is that in order to get back to the moon, it's not just you need one Starship flight. You need like getting on for 20 of them. And in fact, let me see if I can pull that up. So we don't need Vegas. I think we want this one. Yeah, excellent. And you will find that. These are all the powers that you need to get there. Yeah, it's basically because its capabilities are so lousy beyond low Earth orbit, you need a lot of refueling to get it to the moon. And for this, you will need super reliable engines, right? Reliability is absolutely everything. And I should stress that, their best launches, their test firings, when they're only going up to like 50% power or something, they're still losing 4 of their engines before they would even think about lifting off with a rocket. So, yeah, the reliability on the engines just basically isn't there. And if you actually listen to Musk talking about this, he will time and time again end up comparing it to the Russian N1 rocket, which is, as someone correctly points out, by the time Starship gets up to altitude, it's lost 30% of its engines. This is never going to work. You need really, really reliable engines. And yeah, so what did they? Hang on, let's go for the second part of what. Okay, play.
I think we will be the first thing to really be. I think we will be that we will not be a limiting factor at all.
Meanwhile, after the last right, so like I was saying, I was making a video, but the point is that that long stammering, stuttering answer was Musk basically saying that they're not going to be the thing that limits America getting back to the moon. And it's like Artemis 1 has already flown around the moon in some incredible exotic orbit. It's expensive, but yeah, it's ready to go. I mean, if you wanted my honest opinion, yeah, the whole manned spaceflight is kind of a, what are you actually trying to achieve here? Right? When we first went to the moon, in fact, let's come back to this guy over this. Yeah, Apollo. When we first went to the moon with Apollo, the interesting thing is we mostly sent, well, towards the end. Initially, it was all about could it be done at all. Later on, it was actually about the science. They sent geologists to the moon to actually sort of, essentially a day field trip for geology, you know, looking around for what was the origin of the moon, and they did it. But the first guys who landed on the moon had analog watches. They didn't have digital watches. So it was really arcane stuff. And it was really impressive that they could do it at all. But if we were doing it again today, you would honestly be better off sending a rover. And there are lots of reasons why you'd be mostly better off sending a rover. And so if you take a look at what we sent to Mars, the whole selection of rovers that we've sent to Mars, and yeah, we learned lots from that. But this is the key thing. The amount of stuff that you need to make a rover work is minuscule compared to what you need to keep a human alive. So a human, absolute minimum power requirements is people run at about 100 watts-ish. For your first world lifestyle, you're looking at about a kilowatt-ish. But this is when you are on the surface of a planet where all your resources are readily available. You go up into space, and all of a sudden, you know, you take a look at the International Space Station, and there's like, I don't know, 10 people on there, and its power is 120 kilowatts. So, you know, again, they're 10 kilowatts per person, but most of the stuff there is just flown up. Their food is flown up. They don't grow any of their food. They're completely not self-sufficient. So this is the absolute cakewalk of human exploration in space. Space is only like 2 hours drive upwards. It's 100 kilometers up is sort of space, and you know the ISS, you know, a few times more than that, but you know it's super close by, and so sending people to the moon was basically men in diapers for 2 weeks ish. Not very pleasant, but it could be done. When you start looking at sending people out into deep space, the food issue sort of becomes a killer almost immediately. The power supply issue becomes an issue almost immediately. I mean, just so you know, Musk is still pumping that the Starship is going to take 100 people to Mars. And yeah, you just take a look at the International Space Station. How much of it is solar panels just to keep like 10 people alive? It's never going to happen. And then you sort of say, okay, well, and if you really were, if you genuinely had an interest in sort of building a sort of safe room for the species, as it were, doing it on Mars is probably not the place to do it. You'd probably be best off digging holes here on Earth, in that you dig holes in the ground. You're mostly shielded from anything that goes on the surface, and it's a damn sight easier to get your oxygen and your water on a planet like this. You know, even if you destroy the entire surface, all the elements are still there. There'll still be lots of oxygen. There'll still be lots of water. Those are things that you will have to really fight to get on Mars. And yeah, if you take a look at what Musk has done in terms of any of these sort of details about, you know, how are they going to feed the people in space? How are they going to power it? Nothing. The only thing that they've got is the giant flying grain silo, which, to be fair, that's all rockets. They're just giant fuel tanks with some, 10% of the mass is rocket engines that basically get you up to very high speeds. But in terms of what is it good for? Almost, it's not really that much use as a heavy lift rocket isn't that much use as a launch vehicle because most satellites are fairly small. For launching constellations, maybe, but for Musk's promise that it's going to be rapidly reusable, it's going to be cheaply reusable, and it's going to revolutionize everything, there isn't really a market for it in terms of launch. The only conceivable thing that this is good for is the Starlink constellation. Right? And of course, NASA is all in on using this to get to the moon. And that was NASA is meant to be landing on the moon. I think it was originally 24, now 25, and the latest estimates I saw was at least 26. And yeah, you take a look at Starship. If it had reliable engines, right? The engine reliability for me is, like I was saying, there's nothing more to a rocket. It's a giant fuel tank with engines, and if your engines aren't reliable and you've got 30 of them, it's not going to happen. So the last test that they had, let's come back to Vegas for a second here. That's good.
And we should be. I would be surprised if we exit this year without getting to orbit.
Right. So he says he's going to be surprised if they don't get out of this year with getting to orbit. But let's see how many things they plan to launch.
I'd say it's not 100% probability, but I think we've probably got an 80% plus probability of reaching orbit this year, and I don't want to tempt fate here, knock on wood, but I think close to 100% chance of reaching orbit within 12 months.
And I think,
Elon, how much do you expect to spend in this kind of
sorry, I got my clips slightly mixed up. Right, here we go.
Prototype development phase before one of these starships actually starts flying real payloads, whether Starlink or otherwise, and how many kind of tests are you targeting before that?
Well, I'm hopeful we can get 4 flights out this year, maybe 5.
So that was Musk at the beginning of May this year, saying they were going to get 4, maybe 5 flights out this year. And with that, they have a 80% chance of making it to orbit, which means that, this is the thing. I am so convinced that Musk just sort of makes up these optimistic bullshit numbers, and he will quite happily go into these calls where everyone just worships everything that he says, even though he's just sort of plucking numbers out of the air, utterly delusional that they were going to fly, like several times this year. But he says that. But even at that, it's he thinks that with 5 flights, there is a 80% chance of getting to orbit. So if you just take him at his word there, chances of getting to orbit are not so great. And let's see what else we got.
All in on Starship.
And there's a kind of a struggle by other companies to raise funds lately for a number of reasons, and SpaceX has usually kind of been insulated from that. But do you see any kind of difference nowadays? Is SpaceX kind of thinking about fundraising differently, and does that affect how the pressure on this Starship program at all?
We do not anticipate needing to raise funding.
So this is the thing. By the way, it was 3 months until SpaceX needed to raise money. SpaceX is almost 50% funded just by raised capital, which makes it kind of tricky to work out whether it's actually a functioning business or not. But anyway, what I really wanted was what they learnt off their last launch.
Basically, the outcome was roughly in the sort of what I expected, and maybe slightly exceeding my expectations, but roughly what I expected.
So, the one that had 4 engines out at launch, then spiraled out of control and blew up, that's what they were expecting. And he's saying that, with 4 or 5 launches, they have an 80% chance of getting to orbit.
So we actually, at liftoff, there were 3 engines that we chose not to start, essentially, or that hit aborts. And so we actually lifted off with 30 engines.
So basically saying that they lifted off with the absolute minimum number of engines. The uncharitable reading of this is 30 was good, and so they went with it. Otherwise, if you were super confident the whole thing would reach orbit, it's like, all our engines didn't light, let's do an abort and actually fly it when it works.
But this is the SpaceX best assessment after a week. Anyway, so something bad happened.
Right. So they're now going through what they actually learned from the last failure.
What's your best guess as to what caused the initial engine issues? And then I guess it cascaded after that, but what do you think happened?
Right. Now, I got to stress, this is the actual organic pause when he's just asked what went wrong, when he's already got the SpaceX best assessment. Yeah, it's just, the dead air is incredible.
I guess it cascaded after that, but what do you think happened?
It's not. I think we don't know with certainty. Obviously, the rocket stayed on the launch pad for a while, and we did generate quite the rock tornado at the base of the vehicle. And our first guess would have been that the rock tornado would have caused, potentially.
So basically, they didn't really learn anything. They have best guesses. That's what they learned. So at the beginning, Musk was saying that it was better than expectations in that we learned lots of things. And it's like, actually, you learned basically nothing.
Significant damage to the engines, but at least we actually do not see obvious. We actually weirdly do not see evidence of the rock tornado actually damaging engines or heat shields in a material way.
And on that, I probably kind of agree with him. I mean, the thing about, when you've got an engine that's putting out some huge amount of thrust downwards, to actually get things to fly back up into it is basically not going to happen. But it's the mere fact that, okay, the last launch was a success because you learned lots of things. But in reality, he comes up with basically nothing that they've learned.
Whereas the engines on Booster 9, which is next, are much newer and more consistent, and really with significant reliability improvements over Booster 7.
Right. So what he's saying here is that the old booster was a mismatch of a load of old engines that made for problems, which, okay, fair enough. So what did you learn about launching a rocket with a bunch of mismatched engines that might or might not have suffered debris damage? Basically, they didn't really learn anything. Right? They've not tested. And he also goes into they stripped out the hydraulics so that, a single point failure can't take out the whole system, and says they're going to replace it with an electric system, which again, it's like, okay, so if the electricity fails, there are all of these things where, yeah, at some point there will be a method by which it can fail. But in any event, I mean, what do you really learn by flying a rocket on which you've already said all these systems are obsolete? And the key thing here, he says, is the new engines are more reliable. Well, I'm pushing extra doubt on that because they've done 2 test firings. The first one, let me pull it up. The first one, yeah, 4 engines out. That means they wouldn't be able to make it to orbit. And on the second one, they did get all of their engines to light, which is like kudos there. But 3 of them failed within 6 seconds or something, or shut down. So, I mean, I've got to say, though, I mean, it's still actually fairly impressive to put all of this together as a piece of kit. But the idea that this is going to be a rapidly reusable, cheap system anytime soon is just straight delusional. Okay, so at this point, I'm kind of curious as to the stream should have started now on the SpaceX feed. Where did it go? I thought I'm not quite sure what they should be fueling. They've been fueling, by the way, since for about 3 hours. You know, cooling everything down, getting everything prepared. Just to give you some idea of how delusional some of the promises attached to Starship are. They did this thing that they claimed they were going to fly Starship point to point, so you could go anywhere on Earth in half an hour. And there is Gwynne Shotwell, who is like the president or CEO or something like that of SpaceX, saying that, you know, a plane can only fly once per day like this, where my rocket can do 10 times this amount, and I can really make my revenue back that way. And then you just take a look, hang on, launching this thing takes about 7 hours. You can basically fly anywhere in the world by the time you've fueled your rocket. So yeah, that's T-minus 26. Propellant, propellant takes a long time. So the thing is, you've got to pump, I forget what it is, like 4,000 tons of propellant into these tanks. And then all the rocket engines they're basically super powerful pumps that pump all of that fuel out in a few minutes. So fueling takes a long time. I mean, with the space shuttle, it took hours as well. Okay, let's take a look at some super chats, starting with, so this is the thing. There was real work that went into this. So this is from Philip. It's sad to see a guy step in front of all the talented engineers who did the work for him. And it's they did get the Falcon 9 to be a working system. Starship is a different beast, and it sort of mostly stems from delusional hype promises that even if you were to achieve them, there isn't the market for mass launch, and it's not going to be sending anyone to Mars. You only have to take a look at the rough numbers for the International Space Station to realize that. Of the content, thank you, Meatbag. And why doesn't SpaceX use the F1 engines of the Saturn V? They can't. Whilst it's sort of true that the F1 engine, they had 5 big ones on the bottom of the Saturn V, they had all sorts of quirky engineering tricks that people just don't know how to pull off anymore. So yeah, we can't actually make the F1 engine anymore. I like NASA more. with NASA, you have open documentation, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. With SpaceX, it's proprietary. And yeah, it's one of the funnest videos that I ever made was the Apollo 13 video, where you actually go through all, because it's absolutely there, the Apollo 13 disaster report, which fundamentally is about fire. A piece of plastic about that big burning crippled Apollo 13. And, you know, how that crippled their oxygen system, but they needed their oxygen to run their fuel cells, so they had no power. They needed that oxygen to breathe, so they didn't have any more oxygen to breathe. And they needed that oxygen, the water that was made by the fuel cell to drink. So it was this, in principle, they had 2 oxygen tanks, but when one of them went, it took the other one with it. And yeah, the entire report is like 900 pages long. It was super engrossing to read. Kind of a nerd fest on that one, but and Captain, thank you very much for the donation. Right, okay. So in principle, we are like 25 minutes from launch. And I was just about to track down. Somewhere here there is a window with SpaceX in it. That one, there we go. And it should have started 10 minutes ago, the stream. And we hit watch. Ah, good. We have
anymore. So good news all around. Now, the electric system has lots of benefits on its own. It only takes 30 minutes to activate for flight.
There we go. Okay, excellent. We have dawn coming up in Florida. Yeah. It looks like they're going to do it. The madmen are going to try again. Yeah, 20 minutes to launch. The excitement is palpable. So whilst we're contemplating that, yeah, let's take a quick look at what else Musk has been doing recently. Yeah, which is all of his lawsuits on Twitter. I mean, it's and going from shaking the President Xi's hand to this, let's just say the guy who's gone from having what was an impeccable public image where he was basically worshipped by nerds. The hot staging, by the way, is going to be interesting. Part of me suspects that the reason they're doing the hot staging is because they have no real hopes of actually recovering the booster. So what's meant to happen is, the booster goes up to a couple of 50 kilometers or something, and the top fires off, and then the booster's meant to come down and try and make a softish landing on the water. But I don't really see how that's going to work, in that when I was listening to Musk's breakdown of the rocket's erosion of the steel on the pad. So they've now got this water deluge system, which we'll come to, but he was saying that the erosion of the rocket engines is like a centimeter of steel per second when you have the rocket engine impinging directly on something. And so I don't see how they can fire the engines and not sort of completely trash the interstage, but whatever, I mean, that's not my seat. What I can tell you from the deluge system is, in principle, water is absolutely fantastic stuff at sucking up energy. So it all boils down to enthalpy of vaporization. The water's got a fairly strong hydrogen bond in it, And when you break those, it takes quite a lot of energy. That's evaporation. This is why the dehumidifiers for getting water out of air will just never work, because getting rid of that heat is too much. But if you want to cool something down quickly, water is fantastic stuff. So ballpark figures, it takes about 2 million joules to boil a kilo of water. It's Coke. It's 1.5 liters, but it doesn't matter. 2 million joules for that. If I have the same amount of rocket fuel and I burn it, that produces enough energy to vaporize about 20 bottles of water like this. Now, the thing is that, if you just want to take most of the energy out, you're only going to be on the pad for 20 seconds or something, spraying lots of water into the air. If you can get good mixing with the rocket plume, it's actually a fairly effective way of sort of sucking the heat out of the system. The thing is, kinetics matter an awful lot here. In other words, if you just put water onto the base of the launch pad, no, it'll just get blown away and you'll get no cooling from it whatsoever. Okay, the irony of watching Thunderfoot do something that totally goes against his vaporware claims. Thunderfoot cope. Well, no, not really. Cope is when Musk said that he should have landed on Mars last year using the Starship. Even if, right, the absolute gold scenario here is they get essentially suborbital. They fly most of the way around the Earth, and that all goes well. This is still there's still a lot of things that have to be fixed before even going to the moon, right? I mean, we're still probably, if you take Musk's regular predictions that, he says it's going to be a year before he's confident that they're going to get to orbit, 5-10 years, maybe. I mean, that was roughly how long it was between when he said he was going to put a man into orbit and when he did, or full self-driving, or a gazillion other promises like this. I'm more and more convinced Musk doesn't actually know any of the details of any of these rocket programs, and just sort of turns up and sort of spews a bunch of vapid claims. Actually, my God, can you see? Yeah, okay, you can see the fog. They have created a fog in Florida with all of the liquid nitrogen, coolant, whatever, liquid oxygen. But you can see the problem that to actually get to the moon, you need to do 10, 15, 20 of these in rapid succession without failure. And at the moment, they've only just managed to light up all of their engines at once. And even at that, they got about 4 seconds burn time before 3 of them failed. Yeah, it's going to be tricky. But yeah, keeping up with the comments is tricky. I'm a simple guy, and multitasking on a stream not my forte. That being said, it's a awfully big machine. Just so you know, NASA gave them, was it $2 billion to get to the moon? To build the thing that goes down and lands on the moon. Musk said on his last stream that they're currently spending about $2 billion a year on the Starship program. So when he got the award to build the lunar lander, they said, how much is it going to cost? He said like $2-3 billion, that sort of thing. But I will pay half of that myself, because I'm developing Starship for other things. So Musk's estimate of roughly how much this would cost to get to the moon was about $5 billion. They're blown through probably half of that, and you're still struggling to light up all of the engines. Full screen. Okay, I can make it bigger. You're right. I mean, it's like, hang on. Where's my Starship? There he is. Let's make him bigger. There we go. So, what to expect when it lights up? You will know very quickly what's going to happen. In that, I think it's 3 engines out, and you're not making orbit. And I don't know what the plan is there. When do they actually blow off the hit the self-destruct system on the rocket? Oh, they're playing all their greatest hits of how they've blown up lots of rockets before, and yeah. By the way, it's still not clear whether them actually recycling the rockets has any financial benefit at all. I mean, it's certainly not made things 10, 100 times cheaper like they were claiming. But you take a look at, a lot of the things where they were claiming that they'd made things lots cheaper, like putting men into orbit. You scroll the clock back to about the year 2000, and the Russian launches to orbit were much cheaper than those from SpaceX, with their recyclable rocket. And yeah, I like dogs, by the way, Cyberbug. Yeah, so what really happened is after they retired the space shuttle, the Russians started price gouging the Americans, which is like, oh, that's so distasteful. What sort of reprehensible jerk would do such a thing? Until, of course, SpaceX managed to do it, and then they started price gouging the Americans because, yeah. So, but it's one of those things that the launch market is fundamentally so small that, having something that is rapidly and fully reusable is kind of not that much use unless you've got lots of stuff to launch. And if you take a look at the total number of satellite launches, it's fairly constant. If you take a look at it recently, the last few years, it's sort of spiked hugely. This is solely because of SpaceX launching their own satellites. They launched their Starlink constellation. And yeah, that accounts for like 70% of what SpaceX launches or something. You take that out of the equation, and there isn't that much of a rapid launch market. And even at that, launching isn't usually what costs the majority of the money. It's actually building the satellite. Satellites cost like 10 to 100 times more than the launch costs. So, yeah, I guaranteed. So it doesn't really matter which way it turns out. And Musk is playing, like I was saying, these pictures of them getting out into Mars, 0 chance. 0, 0, 0 chance. I mean, even if you could get people to Mars, which you can't, there is still no knowledge of whether people could survive long term on Mars. Even in space, people's bones rot away. You need the gravity to give you the bone strength. And there's the interesting thing that if people were to be born on Mars, assuming that's even possible, they would essentially be stuck on Mars forever because their bones wouldn't survive coming back to Earth. Even as it stands, people have been in space for 6 months. They come back to Earth and they need to be carried around out of the spaceship because, all the health problems have been in space. Oh boy, will Philip regret saying that they're going to hold a concert on Mars? Did they say they're going to have a concert on Mars? It's got to be said, though, that they're pumping an awful lot of cryogenic liquid in there. Just from the simple... I deal with cryogenics quite a lot. cryogenic nitrogen mostly, just to keep things cold. And yeah, they've got an awful lot of cryogenics there. And yeah, I remember this from last time. They had this weird sort of venting halfway up. I assume that's, yeah, as you... there'll be basically an overpressure valve, I would guess. The tanks are mostly pressurized by... it's a thin wall, right? The flying grain silo needs to be as thin as possible. So it's there's no insulation on the outside of this thing. It's not like the whatever the Artemis thing. And just so you know, right? When I was a kid, which was a long time ago now, there was a film called Superman 2 that came out in, I think, the early 80s. And in the early 80s, Superman 2 starts on the moon, where the Phantom Zone is cracked and General Zod comes out, and they kill the astronauts on the moon in the Artemis mission. Right? This was 1984. Right? So the expectation is we would have gone back to the moon a long time ago. In fact, the reason that 2001 is actually set on its way to Jupiter is because it was written like in the 1970s, and the expectation was, well, we've already been to the moon, you know, by 2000 we would already be beyond Mars. And this, yeah, like I was saying, the simple reality is, ooh, is that an overpressure valve? That doesn't look like an overpressure valve to me. Is that a leak? No, it's a valve. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, this is the thing. You lose the pressurization. Actually, is that much of a problem? I'm not so sure it is, actually. It stops cavitation, I guess, in the fuel pumps, or reduces that. So what are we at? 6 minutes. Yeah. Smoke them if you got them. No. Not if you're near the launch site. Venting methane. They had one of these things where they'd pumped a load of methane through one of their engines, and methane can give you some pretty decent fuel air explosions. So yeah. Okay, so thumbs up if you think it's going to be an outrageous success. No, let's do this properly. Let's go from 10 is like the best success. 1 is blowing up on the pad. Where are we at, audience? Oh, it's delayed. It can't be delayed by 2 hours. It's got a 20-minute launch window. Yeah. And yeah, the audience pins it somewhere between where, actually, curiously about where Musk has it, which is like, it's going to be a 3, which is like, we're probably just going to get off the pad. Yeah, -1. If this thing blows up, by the way, we are talking, genuine mini nuke type scenario. Yeah, it's 11. It's not only going to clear the launch pad, but it's going to take humans to Mars on its first attempt. Okay, I think I might. Yeah, so this is the other thing that's entirely untested, is that heat shield. When they were first putting on the heat shield, those things were so wonky. That every now and again there would be a big jolt on the whole system, and because it's basically a giant floppy tube, the only thing that keeps the tube is like a pop bottle, right? Pop bottle is quite flexible until it's pressurized, and the pressure keeps it sort of fairly rigid. And so every now and again there'll be a sort of change in the pressurization, and you could see the tiles flying off, which is like, Right, so the thing is that if you lose a heat tile and you actually melt a hole in that tank, you lose the pressurization, and the whole thing will just collapse. Because, you're taking basically all of the energy that goes into the launch has to be lost on the re-entry. And, yeah, the steel isn't that thick, and the re-entry temperatures can get pretty toasty. So, but now I think about it, it's going to be, yeah. This is where it gets interesting. Oh, I just suddenly occurs to me. They've forgotten to put the giant glass atrium on the front of Starship such that people can have concerts in space. 3 minutes. Okay, I think we're about at the point where this is where it gets interesting. So we're going to go for something a little more solid. So Musk, death or glory await. How do they say? Victory or death? Victory or death? And yeah, just so you know, not to dampen the expectations too much, but at the end of this month, there is the, what's it called? The Cybertruck release event, where if the numbers that I was looking at were correct, yeah, there's so much crap on the internet about these things, it's difficult to tell what's true and what's not. But there's the release event is meant to have like 10 Cybertrucks or something, which I think is to the point where these are basically going to be handmade Cybertruck. That's nice, actually, coming up on Dawn. It's Dawn on, yeah, launch of the rocket at dawn. By the way, it's coming this way. If you're in Europe, it's coming right at us. Actually, not quite. It heads south. But when it launches, the first thing it does is, you know, heads out over the Atlantic and... All right, where are we at? Where are we at? Less than 2 minutes. I can feel the tension building. Yeah, I'm not sure what they're... Oh, you're on full stream. Okay, I will add... oh, no. I'm doing the wrong thing. Okay. There we go. And... yep, okay, that looks good. It's a nice day for it. Nice day for a new cloud in the sky. And it's got to be said, sunrise is gorgeous, no matter where it is. Yeah, once I actually I keep on meaning to make this video. Actually, I got really drunk and got a really bad hangover, and during that hangover, I wrote a creation myth about, you know, it basically goes into why sunsets and sunrises are so beautiful. I really want to make that into a video sometime because it was a beautiful creation myth. Okay, so we have 40 seconds on the clock, and it's not counting down anymore. Why isn't it counting down? Oh, 39. There we're going. We're rolling again. We are rolling. 34 seconds. Yay, guys. Remember, cheer even louder if it blows up. Everyone should be super happy when the future of the company goes up in a... Okay, so this is... oh, hang on. We're back up to 41 seconds. What the hell? Okay. I'm telling you, it's just being a rocket tease at the moment. Yeah, so this is the other weird thing, is the SpaceX feed is frequently one of the worst feeds out there. There are other people who do all this sort of pad watching thing who are complete fans. And yeah, okay, well, yeah, stop edging me, Elon. Yeah, I agree with you on this one, that there is a degree of tension in the air. You know, to the point where this is basically a giant bomb where all someone has to do is hit it with a hammer at the right place, and what you're looking at there will just be the core of the fireball. It won't just be the sun. The sun won't be the only fireball on the screen. It'll be the whole thing. 40 seconds. Yeah, it's the longest 40 seconds of your lifetime. Oh, hang on. A load of their mist is cleared. Hello? What the hell's that? They're so clearing. Yeah. It can't be, and it's nothing important. It's just a weird pattern. Okay. Time. I've got it. I know what it is. We are heading into a black hole, and so we're going to be stuck in this moment of time dilation forever. Okay. It's still pressurizing the second stage, apparently, someone says. Which, okay. That's weird. Usually you would expect, as you're pumping cold liquid into a thin-skinned thermos, and the pressurization of those things is only like 2 atmospheres or something, you would expect them to be instantly pressurized. And we've seen the top stage venting, so we know that that's at least at pressure. Oh, actually, that would be an interesting one. If they freeze up one of their overpressure valves, they must have more. But if you freeze up the overpressure valves, then you can overpressure the rocket. And yeah, big tubes, you don't need much pressure to make. Oh, we're counting! We're rolling! We are rolling! We are at 30 seconds! 25! Okay. Show me the money. Show me something good. Yeah. Fire in the hold. Fire in the hold. And they look like they're a little short on their methane. They have not fully tanked up on methane. So last time, right, the instantly. Oh, hang on. Core engine ignition. Okay, that's great. And the stream has paused. And it's back up again, and those 3, I can't see. It's hidden under the whatever. How many engines? He's wonky off the pad again. No, this looks good. No. There is nothing conspicuously wrong. The flame is brightly coloured. Yeah, no, this looks good. Yeah, no, that's a good symmetrical thrust. Okay, no engines out. They're in with a chance. So yeah, it's like a couple of minutes up, and then it gets interesting. That's the little puffs on the side are just like as it's overpressured. It's letting little. The tank has pressure, and it's actually still, you're going warm air streaming over the outside. So the overpressure is just dumping little puffs of pressurized gas on the outside. They've oversaturated it. That looks like a throttle down. Hey, this is like, yeah, good job on this one. And that's, just so you know, the extra bit that you see in there, you're just going up into the atmosphere. You're burning methane. It produces carbon dioxide and water. The reason it's going all puffy is just you're in that part of the atmosphere where the water just condenses into clouds. And they're out of it already, and so they're sufficiently high up now that there's no more condensation. So, the gas that you're dumping just sort of diffuses into space. This looks good. I mean, that's still beautifully symmetrical. I can't see if they've got any engines out. And, okay, that's rolling over. And difficult to tell whether it's just going down. The perspective on these things is always kind of tricky. With the last one, you couldn't actually see, when it started rolling. They've got much better cameras on it this time. Last time, their cameras were sensitive to the vibrations and everything. But this looks hopeful. So next thing is, what the hell does hot staging look like? Which, congratulations to, let's be honest, the SpaceX team and Musk. Okay, so it's roughly... And the other thing to look at is their fuel indicators. And their fuel indicators look good. They've shut down all but the core 3. Okay, this is their hot staging. Okay. And that's pretty good. That looks pretty good. Yeah, no, this is perfect. Yeah. And yeah, so that thing's now going to fall down and land on... Hey. Yeah, congratulations, boys. So, I'm not quite sure what the hell's going on here. Okay, well, but so, hang on, where'd that go? What the fuck? Okay, but they've still got their indicators on. Okay, that was interesting. And the other one, and they're back on the other camera. Okay, so congratulations on, it looks like, the key thing is, did they manage to get all their engines to light? And yes, they did get all their engines to light. Did they manage to get to the point where they can launch something into space? Yeah, they did that well. So what you're probably looking at there, if I had to guess, right? It's always a bit of a problem when you like I was saying. No, the 7 out of 10. This is a solid 7 out of 10. I mean, it's much better than last time. Much better, right? The booster went boom. The little bit on top of it is going around the planet at the moment, and it's going to land in Hawaii. The booster was doomed anyway. It was just going to land in the ocean. I don't know what they were planning to do with it after that. But, you can see why they weren't keen on trying to land that back at the pad. Even that there's so much that can go wrong. But that does also give you an impression of just how big the boom you would get if the whole thing would blow up on the pad. What are we at to? We're up to 10 kilometers per second. No, 10,000 kilometers per hour. What a bloody stupid unit. Kilometers per second. How many kilometers per second is that? That's kilometer per second is 3 kilometers per second. They're at ish. So they've got to get up to 8, I think, is basically orbital velocity, but they've got all their engines going. So yeah, it is. So why did the rest of it blow up? If I had to guess, what happened is, as it tumbles, fuel moves around in there, and whilst if you get engines work well all the time, that is basically a giant fuel tank, and you're sucking stuff out of the bottom of the fuel tank. Once it starts to tumble, it's very difficult to keep a constant flow into the engines. I'm just purely guessing at the moment. Right, so at the moment they're at, right, so 36,000 kilometers per hour is 10 kilometers per second, I think. So they're up to like half of that. Doing maths on live. Yeah. But I've got to admit, that was better than expected. And if you take a look at the fuel on the other bit, the little guy on top, yeah, his fuel tanks look good. Last time they had an engine fail and it basically blew out. What the hell? I think it's just going into a part of the atmosphere where you can see the ionization, maybe? Okay. So what's his altitude? 148 kilometers. Yeah, it could be. So as a general rule, you get through the atmosphere very quickly. It's by the time you're up to 10 kilometers, you've lost 3/4 of the atmosphere. And yeah, and then it just progressively goes downhill from there. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's all the interesting stuff. I think that was debris falling down. But yeah, it's almost to the point. Their engines are gone. Oh. Oh. Oh, they're not. Are they cruising? Or they blow up? I'm not quite sure. Yeah. Hang on. They lost telemetry? Let's see what happened there.
Coming up on the projected time that ship would shut down its engines.
Okay, so it looks like that's basically when they're meant to shut down their engines. And their velocity is constant. They've still got a bit of fuel. Okay, yeah. So they say that it just sort of shut down. Which, hey, boys, oh my God, that is so stupid. Right, so one of their SpaceX guys, is Musk there? Oh, he is actually there. Okay. And he actually looks happy this time. Waiting for acquisition of signal. Oh, did they lose it? I think they might have lost it. I don't know. They're all the same.
And I mean, up to this point, major successful milestones through hot staging, which was the big objective today.
Through hot staging, which is their big objective for today. It's like, okay, so all you've got to do now is make it 1,000 times more reliable, work out how to land it, work out how to refuel it in rapidly, then fly 6 of them, 10 to fuel up the thing to go to the moon. It's like, none of it's possible. I don't see them being able to burn $2 billion a year to get there. Yeah, but I would still say, yeah, not bad. Just thinking about the Red Letter Media channel and the Enterprise D, yeah. So, did it blow up? I've not worked out. I'm guessing by the way it says awaiting acquisition of signal means that the top blew up. Yeah. So the bottom half blew up, the top half blew up, but this is the first time that the N1, the Russian version of this thing with gazillions of rocket engines on. They flew like half a dozen of those, and the problem is whenever you get an engine out, you've got to compensate for the asymmetric thrust, and they were trying to do that with slide rules and such like. So they managed to do that. But okay, so I guess on the bright side, I don't have to watch it come in and land because the Earth has a lot of micro satellites. Actually, that's a point. So they blew up like 100 tons in low Earth orbit. Huh. That might be a problem. They were at 150 kilometers and they've just created a huge debris field. Huh. Yeah. Kessler syndrome time. Maybe. I don't know. I can't do everything at once, so I've not actually been listening to their comments on this, but okay. Yeah, sorry, ISS. I mean, if they, this would be a hell of an end to the stream. Is like, well, we successfully blew up the Starship, which was a great success, but rendered low Earth orbital uninhabitable for the next 5 years. Maybe, I don't know. So the original idea was it was going to deorbit. And I don't know, did it blow up? I still don't know. But the thing is that the original plan was it was going to test out its heat shield, and then it was going to try and do its propulsive landing in the ocean. What happens? I don't know. With the ISS, I really hadn't thought about it. Yeah, I mean, the ISS is, yeah, you're right, about 300 kilometers. This thing blew up at 150, according to them. But the thing about explosions is stuff goes out in all directions. And if it's a decent-sized explosion, which apparently was the case, you're basically firing bullets in every direction. And they will blast like that. I mean, your only hope is that you don't get many orbital velocity fragments out of it. I didn't see what speed it was going when it blew up, assuming it did blow up. Anyway, yeah, Elon Bankman-Fried, Epstein. Maybe I should do another one of these when we come out to the Cybertruck reveal, because this was kind of fun. Okay, guys, so with that, thank you very much for coming. Yeah, a couple of decent-sized explosions. But that's the one last thing I want to come to. Well, having seen what the orbit, the booster looked like when it blew up, when it was basically empty, if that thing blows up on the pad, it's like there will be nothing left. They will purge SpaceX and the majority of the. It's literally if the rocket falls over, it lands in a wildlife reserve. I'm not going to get too preachy about that sort of thing, but I think it's. I don't think many people would be given the latitude to basically build giant explosive facilities right next to a wildlife facility. But anyway, congratulations on not quite making orbit, but still a dramatic improvement. Congratulations, SpaceX. And actually, I'll answer some questions. So if you've got any questions, ask them now, or and yeah. Yeah, so I get the top what are they chat. I vote for renaming the Kessler syndrome the Musk syndrome. And it's like, yeah, that might be spookily accurate at some point. Submarine guys do well. When's the next video? Okay, big mass fanboy. Favorite color. Favorite color is, I think, blue. Even though I am wearing pink, I have my favorite unicorn on. Yeah. All hail Satan. Quite so. What's your vision for the future of humanity? It's going to be interesting. So there are real points about, there is no planet B, but there are also things that you just cannot get this planet. You cannot get a large group of people to agree on anything. So even if you knew with absolute certainty, don't look up is the future of this planet. Even if you knew with absolute certainty there was something that was going to wipe out mankind, 30% of them would believe it was a conspiracy theory by the Illuminati to make them wear face masks or some shit. It's what's these? Oh yeah, right. So this is definitely on the cards. I have actually now built, not quite on Musk's scale, but I have built something that will stably burn a sodium potassium alloy jet in a steam atmosphere, and it all kind of works. And I'm realistic that this will take years, but the mere fact, there are various hurdles you've got to get through. Like, is it possible to do it at all? And the answer is yeah. It looks like it behaves as a fairly regular fuel. Anyway, so that's upcoming. Anyway, thank you very much for turning out, and I will see you all next time.